Hi guys, welcome back to Renpet Bath Beauty. Today we are making homemade melt and pour soap. I have my oils coming up to temperature in here. They are at 158 and climbing right now. But I thought I would go over some basics with you. When I made the Dark Horse video, a couple of you had requested to make a video on this. I had to make more anyway, so here we are. Homemade melt and pour. It can be called, obviously melt and pour, glycerin soap, transparent soap. It's all the same thing. The very first batch I made many years ago, I used a recipe from Bonnie at Good Earth Spa. And her recipe it's a great recipe. And I'm going to leave the link to Bonnie's video on that below. I'm also going to leave a link to Kathleen Failor's book on transparent soap. And also a link, I don't believe she's making videos anymore. Crystal from Sea Soapary also did a version of Bonnie's soap as well. This recipe is not Bonnie's. After I made hers, which like I said, I loved it. It's a great melt and pour soap. It works beautifully. But as a soap maker and as a formulator, I wanted to come up with my own recipe. So this is my own recipe, but it follows, basic guidelines and whatnot. I'll also leave the link for Soaping 101's transparent soap video as well. She uses stearic acid in her recipe. I do not. But like I said, I've talked about how I do hot process in the past, and I know I have a lot of you new viewers, new subscribers, and well, thank you. I appreciate it. That I do what's called high temperature hot process, which means that my oils and my lye are super hot. I mean, we're talking, 190 degrees, and it cooks super fast. We're going to have lots of volcanoes and all of that. So if you have never made hot process soap before, I suggest you do a little research and start at a lower temperature, because this one can get a little hectic. I've made tons and tons and tons and tons of hot process soap, so I should be able to keep my cool about me. Plus I'm using my big crock pot. But anyway, we'll go over everything once stuff is up to temp. I'm not using Mr. Freddy Stick Blender in this because he is coming apart. I know if you've been watching me for a little bit, he's been coming apart. And if you've tried to call Amazon is not, answering their phone. So I can't get him replaced even with my protection, plan in place. So I bought a new stick blender. He doesn't have a name yet, so we're going to have to name him. But I had to show you, he came with this little attachment, and he came with both a frother and a whisk attachment. So that's kind of cool. So if you have any suggestions for what we're going to name him, you can leave it in the comments. So I'll be right back when this is up to temp. I'm going to let my oils get to 190 before I mix my lye. So we'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and get our lye mix up. Oh, my spatula is over there. I need that over here. Okay, let me get sorry, I have press and seal over everything because I have cats and they like to climb on everything. So this is just distilled water, and I'm gonna dump my lye in there, and we're gonna stir it. I'm gonna stand back. We are going to stir it until we can't feel any granules down in the bottom. All right. Let me bring this back in frame for you guys. Take my lid off here. And I am going to gently pour this down my spatula and get it in there. Now this isn't a whole lot of oils. This will fill up one of my 2.5 pound molds. So, and I am going to stick blend this and let you guys see how quickly it comes to trace. I'm going to put music over it for you though, so you don't got to listen to the stick blender. But it will come to trace pretty fast because it's very hot. So here we go. Okay, that's a nice thick trace. Let me get stick blender off of here. Like I said, he doesn't have a name yet, so we're gonna have to figure out a name for him. I know I'm weird. I name all of my appliances. This is actually the very first time I've used him. But okay, let me just get this out of here so we get all of our soap. Sorry, that was loud, I'm sure. I apologize. Okay, so I'm going to scrape down these edges here so all of my soap cooks down in there. Well, that didn't work very well, did it? Okay, now I'm going to put my lid on. And because this is done with the hot process method, don't ever, 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 I'm sorry, I can't say ever enough. When you are making hot process soap, don't ever walk away from your crock pot, because you can have a mess all over your counter in a heartbeat. It can take like minutes to volcano in some cases. I probably am going to leave the camera running through the whole process so I can catch it volcanoing and you guys can see what's happening with the different stages, because if you've never made hot process soap, you know it goes through 3 stages. It goes through the applesauce stage, it goes through what they call the mashed potato stage, and then it goes into what they call the Vaseline stage. The applesauce stage is really simple. I mean, it literally looks like applesauce. I don't get a lot of applesauce stage in my soap because, like I said, I do soap very high. This is 194 right now. But the mashed potato stage, it looks and feels like the texture of a mashed potato. And then the Vaseline stage is when it's starting to gel. That's when the lye is getting completely cooked out of it. So, like I said, I'm going to leave the camera on. Maybe I'll go ahead and put music over it, speed it up, that kind of thing, and slow it down as it starts to volcano. And some people will tell you never, don't stir your hot process unless it is volcanoing. I do not follow that philosophy. I'm a stirrer. I will stir many times. It's just what I do. The agitation helps for it to cook and volcano. So, all right, guys, I'm going to quit talking and play some music for you guys while this is cooking. Oh, and my crock pot is on high. So, just wanted to say that. There we go. Okay guys, see how this is rising? Can you see that? It's bubbling up and rising. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to let it happen because this is what it needs to do. Oh, I moved you guys too far, didn't I? I'm sorry. This is what it needs to do in order to cook. See, it's actually coming up further in my crock pot. I really hope you guys can see everything really well. It's kind of bright with this ring light. I'm trying to assess what's going to be best. Now, ordinarily, see, it's really coming up now, so I'm going to stir it down. And we weren't waiting for that long. Okay. And like I said, mine cooks fast because I do it at such a high temp. I am already at mashed potato stage, and part of it is already Vaseline. My recipe bypasses ordinarily. See, it's rising again. Can you see it doing it? It's rising, rising, rising. My recipe totally bypasses applesauce stage for the most part because of the heat that I keep mine on. I didn't even get a chance to put my lid back on. Come on, come on. And the longer, if you have the capacity, if you, like ordinarily I could make this in my smaller crock pot that I use for soaping. And by the way, please don't ever do this in a crock pot and then use it for food. It has to be a dedicated soaping crock pot because, you know, you can't mix lye with food. That would be bad. But I could have done it in my smaller soaping crock pot, but I like to have the room for it to rise because, like I said, that's the action that gets it to cook all that lye out and to be done. So and it depends for me how many times it rises. Sometimes it only rises twice. Sometimes it does it 2 times or 3 times. It just depends on what I'm doing. My regular hot process soap, I mean, it can do it more than 3 times, but this looks like it's almost done. See, that's how quick it is. That's why I like high temperature hot process, but always start with a lower temp first, because if you've never made hot process soap before, that volcanoing, especially if you have a larger batch of oils in your crock pot, it can freak you out. Trust me, it can. The first time I made hot process soap, you know, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I about flipped my lid. Alright. Yeah, it looks like it's gelled there, guys. For the most part. We still got a little bit of mashed potato in there. So I'm going to, after I scrape down the sides, I'm going to put my lid back on. And I'm going to let it cook for a little bit longer. See if it's going to rise again. I don't think it's going to rise again, but you know, there's no telling. So, and let me tell you what the temp is now. The temp is 208. Yep, 208.9. So almost 209 degrees. So yeah, it's almost all gelled. I just can't help myself. I'm a stirrer. Just like I'm a scraper, I'm a stirrer. Yeah, that is gelled. See, it doesn't take long. It takes longer for the oils to heat up than it does for me to cook my hot process soap. Okay, so the next phase in making melt and pour soap is your solvents. Solvents are what help the process of the whole being able to melt it down and, you know, it re-solidify and that kind of thing. The first solvent that I'm going to add is called propylene glycol. Propylene glycol is a high ethanol alcohol. It's a high grain alcohol that I buy on Amazon. I can leave the link below for you guys. I don't need to make this soap very often, so I don't buy a very big bottle of this. And we're going to stir. We're going to get this as incorporated as we can. See the steam rising off of there? But yeah, I don't make this melt and pour very often because when I make 2.5 pounds, it can last me, you know, a year sometimes. It just depends, because I like to make cold process embeds and I love to make soap dough embeds. So most of my embeds are made with those two things. I don't make too many melt and pour. But when they're smaller, like the berries for raspberry beret and that kind of thing, it's just way easier for me to use melt and pour. I'm going to try to get some of this stuff off the sides because all of this will melt down. It's not like regular hot process where those crusty pieces, you don't want them in your soap. Alright, my second solvent, I got to get my press and seal off of that. Hold on one second. My second solvent is vegetable glycerin. And this stuff is thick, thick, thick. So if you're not heating your vegetable glycerin, like I don't heat mine before I put it in, I put just a little bit extra, like 0.5 ounces extra of my glycerin, just to make sure, because I mean, it's so thick you can't scrape it out of there. And then we're gonna stir that. Yeah, this recipe took me almost 2 years to perfect. I wanted to be able to make my own, and I love experimenting. This is, you know, science. And it, you know, making homemade melt and pour, it saves you from having to write all those long, tedious, you know, chemical names on your labels that just, you know, make customers go, oh, your stuff's all natural? Yeah, I can see that. So, and then my third solvent is simple syrup. And if you don't know what a simple syrup is 1 part sugar to 1 part water, and in this case this is distilled water, and you boil the water and dissolve the sugar in it. And because in my cold process soap, and when I make regular hot process soap, I use organic cane sugar. I do not in melt and pour, because the organic cane sugar has a brown hue to it, and this soap is not going to be crystal clear like you would get if you bought it from Wholesale Supplies Plus or Amazon or whatever, wherever it is you get your melt and pour, because it doesn't have all the chemicals in it. So I don't want it to be any more discolored than it already is, but it takes color super well. Once this is all done, and you know, I'm gonna let it sit overnight after I'm able to mold it, and tomorrow we will come back and I will show you how you melt it down, how it takes color, and all of that kind of thing, so you guys can see for yourself how good it works. And like I said, Bonnie's recipe is fantastic, and I suggest that you start with hers because it really is very good. Okay. I used her recipe while I was formulating my own. So she also makes an olive oil one too, like an all olive oil melt and pour, which I haven't made yet, but I'm, you know, now I'm going to have to because I haven't made it yet. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to let all these little pieces all melt down. So my crock pot is still on high. Oh, I moved you guys, didn't I? I'm sorry. Did I bump you? So we're going to let this melt down. This can take an upwards of 2 hours. So I don't need my gloves on anymore. All the lye is cooked out of that. So I will bring you back periodically to show you the progress and that kind of thing, and we will be back. Okay guys, it's been about half an hour, so we are gonna check it. Okay, and you see how it's formed a skin? So you'll know that it's just about ready when that skin has stopped forming. So I'm going to stir it up and get this skin to melt back in there. And sometimes, like these little bits and stuff, I'm going to give it another half an hour. And these little bits and whatnot, I'm going to take my stick blender to it the next time we see each other. So it'll help, you know, that melting process. It'll speed it along. It won't hurt the soap. Just have to alcohol it to get, you know, the bubbles down. But other than that, it's just a waiting game now. So I will be back shortly. Ugh. Hey guys, we're back. I put my gloves and my goggles back on because sometimes when you do this, it can splash up on you, and trust me, this soap is super, super hot. I'm going to tell you how hot it is. Move that skin. It is 216, well, it's ranging between 212 and 216. So alright, let's break up some of this stuff so it goes by faster. I have to say I really like this new stick blender. Although he really does remind me of Harold with the way he looks. And don't worry, that milking up like that is perfectly normal when you do it. When it settles, it will go back to clear. And we didn't even get all of those chunks. You see all those chunks in there? It kind of looks like cottage cheese. So let me collect some of these at the bottom here. Do it one more time. Come off. It's a new stick blender, so it's not cooperating. But at least it's staying on there. Freddie doesn't like to stay on there. Harold's my broken stick blender. I still have the motor because he has a whisk attachment, and I use that. Like when I mix my individual colors when I make whip soap and stuff like that. So, alright, let me spray it with alcohol again. Get those bubbles down. And we will let this clear up. And the next time we come back, we should be all good and ready to put this in the mold and then put it to bed for the night. So I'll see you in a few. Hey guys, we're back. See? Told you the cloudiness would go away. Oop, I moved you again. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we are almost there. Now, one of the things that I don't do that some people do when they make their own melt and pour. Oh, excuse me. Gosh, my allergies are really acting up. It's been nice enough that we haven't had the air on. We've had the windows open and my flower garden is in full bloom. Anyway, one of the things that I don't do that some people do is strain. I'm going to turn this down to low. Actually, I'm going to turn my crock pot off because we are that close. They strain the soap as it's going into their mold. I don't, for two reasons. The first reason is most of this floaty stuff, it doesn't stay, it stays on the top. So I take like an old-fashioned, you know, wire cheese cutter after my soap has solidified, and I will just like sort of cut the top, very top of it off. So I cut all that stuff off. And the second reason I don't is because I soap by myself, primarily. I mean, you guys have seen me soap with my niece and my daughter, but primarily I soap alone, and this thing is way too heavy for me to try to hold a sieve and try to pour this in there. So I'm going to take the pot out of the crock so it cools down some. I don't want it to cool down like super cold, obviously, because I don't want it to solidify in my crock pot, but we're at 219 still, so it needs to come out. So I'll be back in probably about, I don't know, 35 minutes. So I'll see you then. Okay guys, we are back. Just like when you would use any other glycerin soap, you spray and then you drop it in there. And I'm going to try to get all of it out of here. We'll see. Well, that's good enough. Ugh. Let's move that over there. Spray our bubbles down. And there we have it. Tomorrow morning I will come back and I will show you how this all turns out. See how all the floaties stayed on the top? So we'll take care of that in the morning, and I will melt some of it down. I will color it for you and mold it and show you how it works. So I will see you then. Hi guys, we're back, but we are upstairs because my husband is working downstairs, and I wanted to get this done and get this video up for you guys as soon as possible. So we are going to unmold our melt and pour soap that we made yesterday. Look at how beautiful. Oh, ding dong dang it. I forgot my cheese grater, or my cheese cutter, so I could take the top of that off. Well, we're just gonna have to cut it off because I'm not gonna, can you guys see that? I hope the lighting's okay because we're right in front of a window here, so hopefully the natural light will help. I'm not going to make much. I just grabbed a quick mold just so I could show you guys. And before we even mess with that, I'm gonna, the way I package my melt and pour is sorry, my allergies are really acting up today. I just put it in some saran wrap. That way it doesn't sweat too much or any of that good stuff. Okay, let me fold this up. I'm sorry guys. I guess I could have done this off camera, but that's how I store it. And I keep it in I have this little melt and pour box underneath in one of my cabinets in my kitchen. I try to get as much air out of it as possible. Okay. Alright, so let's get this back in to view. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this little top off because see now it's all smooth and beautiful. So I'm going to take this top off, throw it away. Okay, So we're going to cube it just like you would any other melt and pour. Cube it up, cube it up. Get my spatula. Oh! That's a good thing I just cleaned this counter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to pop this in the microwave at 30-second bursts and stir it until it's totally melted, and we'll be right back. Now it's not completely melted, so I'm going to stir just a little bit. You can see it's not totally clear, but it's transparent for sure. So, but it's not crystal clear like store-bought. Alright, and the color I brought up was some dolphin fin blue, and I'm going to mix it. Can you see? Okay. I'm going to mix it with some 99% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, to put it in there. I just find that the color takes better that way. And we're going to stir that in. And I find that with any melt and pour, not just with the homemade. So we have beautiful, beautiful blue. Okay, and I brought up this little mermaid mold. This was like the first one I grabbed off my mold shelf. And we are just going to pour it in. Oh, a little bit more. And then, of course, spray with some rubbing alcohol. And then I'm going to let this set up, and we will come back and I will show you what it looks like. Hey guys, we're back with our little mermaid tail. And just like any other mold, you pull it back and you pull it out, and there you go. Let's see if you guys can see that. Oh, let me pull you guys back out just a little bit. And the great thing about this melt and pour is, and I know I mentioned it at least in the raspberry beret video, because I had all those raspberries and blackberries on that soap. This soap is softer. It's solid, but it's softer than your commercial melt and pour. So it's not going to mess up your cutter when you're cutting through embeds. And that for me is everything. Not only is it natural, you make it yourself and all of that, but it doesn't hurt your cutter. So if you have like a crescent moon, you know, column or a round column, whatever, when you cut through that cold process soap, it's not gonna, you know, hurt your wire once you get to the melt and pour. So okay, that's it guys. I hope that this video helps you and that the links below help you to be able to make your own melt and pour. Let me know your experiences down in the comments below. And if you want to see more content like this, you know, making stuff that you ordinarily would buy, then go ahead and like the videos, subscribe, and come on our journey with us. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.